my God. This place is a fucking gold mine. Welcome back to the Outpost, and I'm Nomad. And today we're going to be covering a topic that's something I think we're all going to be dealing with soon here, and that's when the grid goes down. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically break down, I feel as though, the series of slippages that society is going to go through from one stage to the next, if the grid goes down widespread, at least for all of America, if not the rest of the planet. At first, when the grid goes down, you're going to want to try and determine how widespread this outage that you're suffering is. You're going to want to check communications. You're going to want to try and get your router and your cable modems back up and running. And you're going to want to try and see how widespread this situation is. Is it just your internet? Is it just your power? You got to determine the extent of how far this grid down scenario is going and how widespread it's become. If the power was to go down countrywide, at the end of week one, we'd already be seeing shortages in our food supply, our grocery stores, the big box stores. Everything sits on kind of a 3-day reserve as far as grocery stores and other means of getting food, whether it's local farmers markets and things like that. There's not a huge stockpile just sitting there waiting to be put on the shelves when it comes to food, especially fresh food and real fresh food, even more so. By the end of week one, I think we would see a lot of looting like we have in riots and other protests in the past, but just on a more volatile level and a more, I would say, widespread level. Right? It won't be concentrated to just one city or location. It'll be happening kind of everywhere. At the end of week one, there's still going to be a lot of confusion, I believe, within the majority population that exists in society right now. People are still going to be, at this point, waiting for the lights to come back on. They're going to be hoping that help is on the way. They're going to be hoping that when they call 911, someone still answers and can still come and help them. And the police are still around to maintain law and order. At the end of week one, I feel as though these services and things will still be in place. But if the grid was to stay down continuously after week one, I think is when we are going to start to see a real shifting in decline as far as society goes. If you made it this far, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts on what is going to happen for you and your situation, your outpost, your group, whatever you have going on. How do you think you guys are going to stack up to a grid down scenario that is widespread and stays down? By the end of the first month, starvation will be in full swing for a lot of unprepared people. Once you take it to a month without giving your body any food or sustenance, calories, protein, fats, you name it, you're going to start to show signs of severe starvation where your body at that point has probably already been cannibalizing itself. You've probably lost a lot of weight at this point. And to be honest, I can't even imagine how horrible of a feeling that must be to stretch out not eating for an entire month. So you're going to have a lot of people that are very desperate and very volatile because they are unprepared and they have to take from people that are prepared to sustain. By a month, I feel there won't be much left on the grocery shelves except for, non-essential items. I feel like a lot of hospitals, a lot of pharmacies, a lot of these places are going to, by the end of the first month of no power, grid down, no communications. I think also by the end of the first month, bugging out is going to be a forced option for a lot of people in the city and suburbs because you're going to have a lot of sewage backing up from the pipes into the toilets, the showers, sink drains. And after about a month of nobody taking care of the vital parts of life that I feel a lot of people take advantage of. A lot of people, I feel, are gonna have to be forced to move from where they are, even if they were prepared. The coming collapse of the grid is going to be a shock to a lot of people's systems, and I don't think they're going to be able to adjust course fast enough to keep up with what's coming. So after about a month, I feel as though an event will start, and what I dub it as is the churn. And the churn is going to come when things start getting really bad for a lot of people, because they're starving to death at this point. They are desperate. They will do anything they can to try and survive. It's just human instinct. It's just the way we are. It's unavoidable. And the churn is going to be a sliding scale on when that starts. I feel the cities can almost start on like day one. Grids down, communications, everything's gone. I almost feel like the cities are almost going to start the churn on day one of that, right? You're looking at a sliding scale the further you get away from a city. Because the further you get from cities, the people that live in the more rural areas, they are a lot better prepared usually. They know how to can, they know how to farm, they usually, a lot of them have animals that they can produce and get things from. People are a bit more self-reliant in the rural areas as far as like life without the grid and technology. The churn will basically be the downgrade from rule of law to without rule of law. And that immediate transition point from when law enforcement, fire, rescue, etc., abandon their posts to take care of their own families. Because it's gotten to that point now. There's no infrastructure remaining to even support what they're doing. So they have to abandon post and take care of their families, because when the grid goes down, it'll eventually reach that point. It's a natural order of events. And the transition between rule of law and without rule of law will be a drastic change for a lot of people, because that's when people with good intentions and people that are desperate are going to start acting crazy and start doing things that aren't going to be what most people are used to dealing with on a daily basis. I don't think any of us really will be truly ready to take in this new world at first. So without rule of law basically classifies society as having no law, emergency medical, or fire, etc. When society hits this stage, I don't know if we will be able to transition back to a normal society until things kind of hit rock bottom, and then we can build ourselves back up from there. Now, that's not to say that for whatever reason, the grid going down, we were able to start restoring parts of the grid and getting it back up. And, I'm not saying that like we're cooked and there's no hope for humanity, right? Like, but it would take us coming together and working together as like a united society. And I feel like that's the impossibility. I feel like us coming together and working together to maintain society, our way of life that, people cling to so hard nowadays. And the supply lines will definitely, when we get to without rule of law, the supply lines will be cooked. There will be no more Home Depot runs. There'll be no more Walmart runs. There'll be no more going to the grocery stores. All of that shit will be gone by then. And then once the transition becomes normal from going without rule of law, and now we transition, and now without rule of law has become normalized, and it's just another way of life for us, and we just wake up and this is it. Now we have reached the shit hits the fan. When we're in shit hits the fan, here's some things we'll probably have to be dealing with. Open hostility. I feel as though once the rule of law has settled and without rule of law has settled and people are adjusted to the normalcy of this new reality, open hostility will definitely be something that like is needing to be on everybody's mind constantly. The next person coming over that ridge to the camp or the outpost or wherever you end up long term could be a threat. The breakdown of society, as far as large centers of human gathering, could potentially break down to the point where humans go tribal and almost remain nomadic, going from one place to the next, trying to keep their supplies up and keep moving to avoid being tied to a location that somebody can recon and formulate a way to take all of your stuff and your place away from you. Because if you just stay in one place, you become vulnerable. And that's just how things work. If you're just dug in like a tick, yes, you have the defensive advantage. You can set up defensive locations, you can set up a perimeter, you can have people scouting the perimeter, but at the end of the day, it's still a defensive position that people can basically take from you if they have the means, if they have the manpower and they have the bullets, they have the guns, they can come in and take what's yours. Who knows what the survival plan, I don't even know long term. I am planning to survive long term where I am, but that doesn't mean that that's how it's going to play out when all is said and done. To survive, we might have to run, we might have to bug out. You never know. And the adaptability and the flexibility, as well as being prepared, is what's going to keep you and your family alive in situations like this. Also, at this point, all supplies are final, meaning if we've hit a shit hits the fan, there'll be no restocking of any kind of shelf. There'll be no resupplies. I mean, what we have is it. And to survive beyond this point, we're gonna need to be able to produce ourselves, whether it's fishing, hunting, farming, raising animals, going back to the old ways, and actually persevering and getting through this. But to do that, you're going to need a community of like-minded people. So eventually, once we've reached a certain point, everybody that is still around at that point probably has some value or worth to them. So just taking them out like a scav and escape from Tarkov is probably not a good strategy, because you never know. That person that you're seeing out there could very well have the skills that your outpost in your community are also missing as well. So it's going to be a very hard game to play, determining whose threats, whose potential assets, and who you should just probably leave alone altogether and hope that you never see them again. And then once shit hits the fan, becomes normalized in your everyday life, now we have reached the collapse. And the collapse is basically rock bottom. And as a society, as a species, I believe at this point we have nowhere to go but up. And hopefully the people that survive all of this will be good-hearted people that start a better world than the one we're currently living in now. Thank you guys all for coming out to the Outpost. I'm Nomad. And if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. Hit that like. It helps more than you possibly can imagine for small little channels like me. And we'll see you next time.